Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. How's everyone doing today? How's everyone doing in April? Time flies, eh? I cannot believe how fast this year has already gone. It is come and gone. We're almost done with April and it's almost May. Like, that blows my mind. How is everyone doing today? If you guys are new to my channel, my name is MacLean. I'm here every Thursday to bring you true crime that's happened here in Canada. So thank you for coming to my channel. So today we have a different story. Life's been a little crazy. Didn't even think I was going to get a video out today, but I did. So proud of that. I'm pretty pumped. Pretty pumped on that because usually I just, get in my little depression state and don't do anything. But I'm trying to really push myself through and get all the stuff that I say I'm going to do. And I was just thinking the other day, I used to do 2 videos a week. And now I can barely get one. Like, who was that goal? Who was that goal in 2020, right? I don't know who. So today's story that we're going to do is going to be about Helen. Helen Betty Osborne. Osborne. I'll put the name here. And this story it's going to be a shorter story today, so I'm just going to do my makeup quick, everyday look, you know what I mean? Just nothing crazy glam, nothing crazy at all, just some natural type of makeup. And this story, when this happened, it kind of was like the start of, discrimination, overrepresentation in the justice system, people not caring due to the fact that somebody was Aboriginal, kind of vibe. It's a horrible story, so trigger warning. There's sexual assault, there's murder, there's abduction. It talks a lot about cops kind of not caring, and if that triggers you in any way, feel free to pause or not watch this video. If it doesn't, well then let's get ready and let's get right into the story about Helen Betty Osborne. So as you can see, my face is breaking out, which is I think it was a couple weeks ago, cleanest face I've ever had. Not a shed of acne. I'm using this. I also got a silk pillow from Moss and Sparrow up in my hometown. It's a really cool shop, and I think that silk pillow just saved my skin. Oh, sorry, the Dewy NYX Honey Dew Me Up primer, and then the Milk Blow Stick. I probably shouldn't use this on my face anymore just because of how old it is, but cost too much money for me to waste. Also, I have been tanning, as you can see, so I'm going to try really hard to mix my foundation because of the fact I have no foundation for my tan skin. I only have foundation for my I don't think I have my beauty blender. What I was saying was I don't have any foundation for my tan skin. So all I have is my really, really, really crazy pale skin. So we'll see how I can blend away and pray. So let's just get right into this story. I'm going in now with the Cover FX Miracle Drops, whatever they're called. Glitter drops. And I put that all over my face for a shine. So Helen was born July 16th. She was a Cree Aboriginal woman from Norway House Reserve who was kidnapped, murdered while walking on 3rd Street in Manitoba Pass. So a very, very sad story. Helen was born in Norway, Manitoba. She was the oldest of 12 and was born to Joe and Justina. Her dream was to go to college, become a teacher. There was no secondary school in that area, so unfortunately she would have to, travel, be away from family. And I think that's if you've ever been to a reserve, what is that on my skin? You kind of know, it's just kind of it has schools there, but if you ever want to move or, do something else with your life, you kind of have to leave your hometown and go somewhere else. And that was the case with her. So she had to leave. She really wanted to, you know, become a teacher. So she had to leave her house to further her education. Helen was 17 when she came to the pass from the isolated northern Manitoba community of Norway House to study at the Guy Hill Residential School. She boarded with a white family, but like many Indigenous people felt the gulf between the white and Native people in the community. And in 1971, the pass was a community just like everyone else. They, as much as people want to say that they're accepting and they're not, oh, you know, that wouldn't be me. Everyone's slightly biased. So I'm going to mix this bad boy with, what do I feel like mixing this with? Look at the sparkle on my face. I'm going to mix this, because it's dark, with a lighter shade. And I'm going to stick with the same brand. So most people in this little town, let's see. Yeah, that's a bit better, eh? So most people in this little town of 600 were white. This town was along the Saskatchewan River, 600 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. White owners of business, the town RCMP officers were white. So, you know, just like nowadays, like that's still true. You see a lot of white owned businesses, but, you know, and me being white, I also, you know, don't really see as much cultural or people being discriminated against and stuff just because I'm not around, right? If I was maybe of a different color, it might happen a little bit more to me. And Canada is not the nicest to Aboriginal people. You know, everyone says Canada's great, you know, look what we did to them in schools and everything. Like, we're not a good country. So in the fall of 1971, Helen attended a colleague's party, and she went out and was out just hanging out, doing her own thing in the path. And so when she was living there, she was living with a non-Aboriginal family, and the lady who housed her said that Helen was very respectable. Even though she was an adult at the time, Helen would ask if she is allowed to go out, what time she should be home and stuff like this. So it was very unlike her to not come back, and they never had a problem with her. She was just such a respected, and liked young lady in the house. So during that time, you know, people didn't really mingle. There were whites of the past, and there was still 200 Cree individuals who lived in the community, but they didn't really mingle that well in the town. The high school, the white students and the Native students ate at separate tables. The audience in the movie theaters were divided too. Whites on one side, Natives on the other side. And at least one bar, the Indigenous people would go and hang out, and then the whites kind of, you know, did their own thing. The Justice Inquiry, how the RCMP officers would stop mostly the Aboriginal people or the Indigenous youth on the streets for questioning while the white kids were left alone. So kind of, you know, it's kind of almost like the same thing in the States. Going with my MacLean. How the States, you would see that, you know, with African Americans. But here you see it a lot with Aboriginal. So the discriminatory conduct was probably so inbred that the officers did not notice that they were conducted displays of prejudice and discrimination, was a quote from one of the people who lived there, which is true. You know, it's sometimes passed down from generation to generation. Individuals don't realize that they are, you know, have a bias towards a certain race, or, you know, even know that they're even doing it because that's what they were trained to do. You know, the officers who are new to the area, who were trained, mostly stopped Aboriginal people, so they think, hey, this is normal, this is what we should be doing. So the night of the murder, Helen went out to a party. She was hanging out with her friends, you know, doing her own thing, and she decided to walk home. So while walking along the third street and pass on a cold Saturday morning around 2 a.m. in November, which, if anybody knows, it's not nice in Manitoba in November. It's not, I wouldn't want to be walking. Now I'm going in with my camouflage concealer for some contour. I wouldn't want to be walking in Manitoba at that time of the year. No, thank you. So Helen was, then a car pulled up beside Helen, and she was talked to by four men in the car. Hongton, who was driving, stopped the car, and Johnston got out, attempting to convince Helen to go with them to a party. And they're like, we have an after party. Wouldn't you really like it to come with us? We can hang, we can drink. No. What do you think? She told them that she did not wish to accompany them. She then was forced into the car and was driven away. In the car, Helen was sexually assaulted by two of the men, as the other one drove. Johnston ripped her blouse, and then Colgan grabbed at her breast. In spite of her screams and attempts to escape, Helen was taken to a cabin belonging to the Hongton's parents in Clearwater Lake. So she fought, which is, good for her. That's what you have to do. She was like, not today, boys. I'm not coming with you. No is no. Leave me alone. So there's 4 gentlemen who did kidnap her at the time. Now I'm going in with the rare beauty. Just a little pulse on my cheek, and a lot goes a long way with this type. So the 4 individuals who did stop and try to tell her, hey, you want to come to this party with me? She's like, nah. They were white individuals. So at the cabin, she was pulled from the car and beaten by Johnston, while the others stood watching and drinking wine that they had stolen earlier. So they're just, having a party. And I don't know about you guys, but what group of guys comes out and goes, what'd be really cool to do? Attack and kill someone. How do you come up with that at a party? How do you come up and be like, we're going to kill someone tonight, and it's going to be great, and we're going to enjoy it, and, let's go out drinking, and then if, the party's dead, we'll find somebody on the streets and rape and murder them. How's that sound like fun? That's why I don't want kids sometimes, because, damn. Could you imagine this being your kid? That's horrible. So the other ones stood around drinking wine while everyone was doing their thing to this poor girl. Helen continued to struggle and scream, and because her assailants were afraid that they might have been heard, they decided to drag her back into the vehicle and then move to a new location just to be on the safe side. So they're like, we need to get out of here, and we need to dip on her, and we need to see if we can find a new joint and keep attacking and raping and sexually assaulting her. That's what they decided to do. So, they forced her back into the car and driven further from the town to a pump house next to a lake. At least one, some of her clothes was removed by her assailants in the car again. At the pump house, she was once more taken from the car by one or more of the assailants, and then beaten continued. She was sexually assaulted again. So they removed her clothes. Now I'm going to go in with the Essence blush. I really like this color. I went with the City Bronzer for just the bronze of my face. I'm just, going for the clown look today. And that's it. Just trying to look like a clown. Beautiful. So the clothes that were not removed were taken from her, wearing only her winter boots. She was viciously beaten and stabbed, apparently with a screwdriver, more than 50 times. Her face was smashed beyond recognition, and the evidence suggests that the 2 people then dragged her body into the bushes. Her clothes were hidden. The 4 men left, returned to the past, and went their separate ways. And we're just like, we did it. High fives. We're done. Even if she was alive, the cold would have the cold would have got her in a hot beat. Like, she would have not survived because it gets so cold there. She has no clothes. She was beaten and stabbed. No cell phones, no nothing, right? So what is she gonna do? So now I'm gonna do what I always say. Oh, I saw something on Pinterest or TikTok and I'm gonna try to do it, and then I just mess it up royally. So we're gonna go on this journey together here. And we're gonna finish the story, and we're gonna pray that maybe my look will be okay. But it might also not. She used black, and I'm kind of scared to use black. So I'm going to go in with a nice dark brown. Not like you guys even know what I'm going to attempt to do. So she started like this. And that's it. Just kidding. Give me a second. So you pack it in, and then you diffuse. Okay? So the following day, Kenny, a 14-year-old in the town, grew tired of fishing with his family and went off looking for rabbit tracks when he discovered her unclothed body. He and his father reported the discovery to the police, which sounds horrible. Like, you know, you're just out chilling, your kid's like, hey, I'm getting bored. Is it cool if, like, I just dip and I go look for rabbits? And you're like, yeah, buddy, like, take your time, be safe, don't go too far. Next thing you know, he's screaming. He found a dead body. Like, way to ruin the family trip. I would be livid. See what I'm attempting to do here that's not working? And like, it could work. It definitely could. I find I can't speak and do this. I'm just gonna fill this in. And then we're gonna diffuse. It's gonna look, I might pull it off, who knows? Who knows? Police at first suspected her ex-boyfriend at the time because, you know, you always gotta suspect. I can't speak. Anytime I stop filming, I can't speak. You always gotta suspect the person who's closest to her. They might have just broken up. I didn't really find too much information about the boyfriend. So they're like, okay, he did it. Let's bring him for questioning. His name was cleared after successful passing of a lie detector. So then there was an argument early in that evening at a hotel, and during the initial days of the investigation, attention was placed to Betty's friends. They all kind of went and it was like, okay, it's probably... Now we're going to move on to her friends. They all went out that night. They were partying. They were doing whatever. Maybe an accident happened and nobody just kind of came to tell the police. And, you know, because accidents do happen, but if it comes to somebody's death, you should probably report that shit. Maybe. I'm gonna try to buff this out. I'm gonna do one eye, and if that one eye looks like crap, then that is what it is. Woo! Woo. Now I'm gonna buff. So they went to the friends and they're like, hey, maybe they did it, they know something. Unfortunately, unaccepting recordings and evidence at the pump house at the crime scene really crippled the investigation. They talked more to the friends, but they all had alibis and was like, hey, no, it was not us. Police had no success in identifying the assailants until they received an anonymous letter in May 1972. And this letter stated that this lady knew who did this, and she even put down the names of Colgan, Hogan, and the manager. The letter was written by Catherine Dick, who it was later discovered had been told by the murders by Lee Colgan shortly after they took place. Police then seized the Colgan's family car, which had been used in the abduction. Just right here, I'm not vibing with right now. Not too bad. Let's see if I can replicate that. I like how I said, ooh. This was just gonna be a nice everyday look. Let's try. And then you blend and you buff and you blend and you buff. La 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 la. So they seized the vehicle. Examination of the vehicle revealed traces of hair and blood, as well as a piece of a brassiere strap. So ooh, not looking good, right? Shortly after the seizure of the car, an informant told police the fourth man in the car that night was Dwayne Johnston. Attempt to question the suspects were frustrating when the men on the evidence just straight up asked, like, yo, get me a lawyer. You can't just question me. So they asked for a lawyer. Bancroft refused to speak with the police. Reported attempts on numerous times. Refuses were unsuccessful in the breakthrough of their silence. The police found it impossible to gather significant evidence to support a charge of murder against any of the four men believed to have been involved in the murder. By the end of 1972, although rumors were circulating in the past of the identity of those involved, the killing and the investigation had stalled. So there is, if you go on YouTube, there's this thing called Silence of the Community. So a lot of the kind of conspiracy about this crime is that a lot of the community members knew exactly what was going on, who was involved, and even some of the police officers. It took them such a long time to even attempt to arrest anyone, or even they just kind of like, oh, she's dead, that sucks for her and it sucks for the family, right? No one even, like, it was brutal. I did not want to put that much gold on my eye. I wanted it to be a little bit lighter. So, and it was kind of just like the cover up of the cops not really caring, and they attempted to, kind of like do something with the case, but then they didn't do anything at all. And it's actually pretty interesting about how, this was one of the first big cases for white men. And that's what another thing that kind of stood out was, why would the white men want to sexually assault this lady? Like, they could get anyone they wanted. She was probably asking for it, you know what I mean? Like, no one wanted to believe that this happened and that these guys were involved. They just wanted to be like, no, not in my community, not my white boys. They would never do that to an Aboriginal, to a Cree woman. No, thank you. Like, no one wanted to believe it. I'm just going to put some eyeliner on up here. So between I don't know what my mascara is. So if you're new to this channel, I don't like lashes. I am going to buy a bunch of lash kits and try out different things just to see what really, my eyes get very irritated very quick. So I'm just going to use mascara. So between 1973 and 1983, only here and there checks kind of were made on this case. They were just like, again, they had a lady say that, these guys said this, they were doing this, and no one seemed to care. Everyone was like, oh yeah, okay. Like, she's like, these guys admitted to killing her. And like, cool. Well, they asked for lawyers, so we're not going to deal with it. So the case went cold, and in July 1983, an extensive review of the file had begun by Robert, last name Obisky, of the Thompson RCMP detachment. Many of the original informants were re-interviewed. The suspects were contacted again, and in June 1985, the RCMP placed an article in the local newspaper requesting assistance of the public in solving the murder. The results was that several people came forward recounting comments about the murder made over the years by Colgan and Johnson. First of all, Colgan, it seems like he's the worst person to ever commit a crime with, because like 3 days later he's like talking shit to this one chick, and now he's out here like, you got away with it for like 10 years and you're still talking about it, dude. Like, you do it, sweep it under the rug, forget about it, move on with your life. You don't go around bragging. That's how you get caught. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did get caught. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but you know, if you're going to commit a crime, make sure you know the people who you really know the people that you're going to commit the crime with, because he's not the one. So it was the disclosure of those remarks that finally led to the charges of murder being laid against the two in October of 1986. So now we're looking at 13 years from when the murder actually happened. Before the beginning of the preliminary hearing, which is, I've explained this before, this is just a hearing where they just cross-examine they don't like, so it's just the Crown. They don't cross-examine the person up on trial. They usually do like the victims and like, you know, witnesses and stuff like that, just so that they can like get kind of what they're going to say. And then when the trial does happen, they kind of ask the same questions that they asked in the preliminary hearing. And then they can be like, but you said on this date, on this hearing, that you did this, and now you're switching your story. Kind of shit like that. Because it's not like SVU, it's like, and now I have this evidence, and the crowd's like, oh, I didn't know. You have to show your evidence. You have to, and that's the other thing, to kind of see like what evidence that counsel has, what evidence does the defense lawyer have, what does the Crown have, you know, just kind of showing what you got. That's all that hearing is, and then it goes into the case, you know, in the trial kind of thing, if you guys are still with me. So in March of 1987, Lee Colgan was granted immunity from the prosecutors in return to his testimony, and on the strength of Colgan's evidence. Hongton was arrested on the charges on July 5th, 1987. At the hearing later that month, both Hongton and Johnson were committed to the stand. The Attorney General Department brought the case to the trial in December of 1987. 16 years after the murder, a jury found Johnson guilty of the murder of Betty Osborne. She was called Betty or Helen. And he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the eligibility of parole. And then Hongton was acquitted. So I guess that's okay. One of them did get jail, but they all participated. And that was only one dude. So like the rest of them kind of just like. So Johnson appealed his conviction, which you would if you're a murderer, right? You don't want to go to jail. So he appealed it. Try to outline my lip. Bottom lip line. If you haven't, go get these Maybelline Superstay ink crayons. These things, except for the red one. The red one is the most chocolatey fucking thing I've ever put on my lips. Like, you know, like back in the day when you used to wear like hot pink lipstick and it was just like really chalky. That's what that red reminds me of. Let's see if I have it and I can show you a swatch. Like this is the red I got, kind of orange, which usually I vibe with. Oh, it's actually not that bad. Why did I never? Maybe one day I'll try it, but not today. But that's it. It's actually not that bad. Maybe I dreamt that. I don't even know. I don't even know, guys. I'm just here. So Johnson appealed his conviction, and it was dismissed by the Manitoba Court of Appeal on September 14th, 1988. And his application for leave of appeal to the Supreme Court was denied on March 13th, 1989. He is now serving his sentence as the result of Helen's death. It was rumored that many individuals in the community knew all along who the culprits were, yet said nothing. There was even possibilities that some were aware of the murder the day after it happened and who was held accountable of it. At that time, it was suggested that because Helen was of Aboriginal child, the community considered her death unimportant, which is horrible. Like, why? Why does it, like, right on the side of my mouth, it's just like, I'm gonna try to put a little red in the middle. So, like I said, they just said, hey, she's not white. Why should we care? Was kind of the vibe the town was running with at that time. They're like, we don't give a shit. So that's horrible. So it was racism and neglect were the points towards the citizens of the town and the police and the Attorney General's department, because, like I said, no one did anything. They said they found the dead body. They looked at it. They said, oh shit, she's so beat we can't even recognize her. So they had to like wait a little bit, and then they're like, you know who did it? That's okay. So on April 13th, get some gloss. This one's Jeffree Star. I think I bought this. I don't know why I did, to be honest. Don't know why I did, but I like it. He's got good glosses, but I don't like purple, and then I bought the purple one because I'm crazy. So on April 13th of 1988, the provincial government declared the public inquiry into the administration of justice of Aboriginal people. Helen was neither the first nor the last Aboriginal to go missing or die at the hands of others. However, her death was made a lasting impact on the community. Her murder and drug-out trial brought the attention to the sad system put in place to rectify crimes in Canada. Her death created change, and although her disappearance and murder of Aboriginals still happened, Helen brought attention to the matter. So that was one of the huge positives that happened in this, because this was one of the first cases where an Aboriginal woman died. It was known about, and then the community just said, sucks to suck, war out, we don't care, we're not going to even try. So this is my final look. I kind of feel like I don't mind it, I don't hate it. I kind of feel like a whore, like I feel like I look like a whore, and I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with that today. That's just, I guess, the vibe I'm going with. So it's not horrible. So yeah, even though she was murdered in a brutal way, it kind of like put on the map that this is happening in Canada and it needs to stop. I do know that since this like case happened, it really like jump started murdered and missing Aboriginal women in Canada. You know, every year we're kind of desensitized to it now. I know even me, like I always see like this person's missing and stuff like this, and I'm just like, whatever, right? And like my other thought is like the amount of times that we've heard, oh, they probably just ran away. Statistically, I want to know how often that actually happens. Like, how often does somebody go missing and they just ran away? I want to know. I want to know. I want to see the stats on that. So get that for me, Canada, because I don't think it's even close to, and they just say that because they're, you know, and the amount of women who have been raped, who have been murdered, who's missing and maybe still be alive and being tortured out there, you know, it's a horrible thought to even think about. And men, it happens to men too. So this case showed how the justice system has failed and how it still fails. I think the justice system still fails every time I read these cases. I feel like, you know, the justice system is so black and white. Like, yes, they did this, so the consequence is this. There's no, okay, they did this and they did it because of this, so this should be the consequence. You know what I mean? Like, it should be very, like, to me, I feel like it should be kind of per each case, especially like stuff like this. When it comes to just like stealing shit, yeah, give them like whatever. But like when it comes to more like situational circumstances, look at Tracy Latimer, where the dad killed her because she was living a horrible life. She was non-functioning. She was non-verbal. They were going to take out her femur. She was going to live an uncomfortable life. She was on so many drugs. She would scream in pain. She couldn't even talk. Like, why is she living? You know what I mean? Like, I would, if that was me, I would want to be dead. I would not want to live. And he had to take his daughter's life in her own hands, and now he's in jail because of something that, you know, should have been stopped. Like, that isn't the same as Vincent Lee going on a bus and cutting off somebody's head. In my opinion, they both got the same type of outcome. They both got put. Well, not Vincent Lee got a lesser outcome because he's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I think the system's broken. I think it needs to be relooked at, and I think it needs to be fixed. Do I think people need to go to jail when they commit horrendous crimes like this one? Yes. But do I think it should be very outcome based due to the situation of the events? Also, yes. I want to know your guys' opinions on this, because I think that's a big one that people don't really talk about in Canada. You know, we kind of just go, this is the criminal code, see you later, right? Like, there's some good when it comes to the criminal code. There's some bad, there's some weird. Like, I used to, like, when I was in university, we looked at weird criminal codes. One of them was like anal sex if you were under the age of 18, or there was like 2 to 3 people, or if there's 3 or more people involved, it was like a couple years in jail. Some weird stuff like that. I don't believe that's a part of the criminal code anymore, or I hope it's not. But yeah, let me know down below what you guys thought about this case. Can you, like, imagine that family having to wait, what do they say, 16 years until they actually got justice? Like, thank God they actually did get justice for her, and the assailants actually did get caught and put away. But 16 years when they had them. Like, this is the same as Robert Pickton. They picked up Robert Pickton, they did that shit, and then they're like, you can go out and kill some more. You know what I mean? Like, lock these fuckers away. You had them. Yeah, you didn't have enough evidence, but, like, they had the same amount of evidence back then that they had today, and they still went to jail for the same. They didn't, like, find a fingerprint all of a sudden. They had the same shit. Maybe just 2 more witnesses. That's it. So that blew my mind too. So yeah, again, let me know down below what you guys' thoughts are on the story. If you guys have any cases you want me to look up, or you think that maybe it'd be interesting for me to do, please link that down below. Again, my name is Joan MacLean. My socials will be here. I'll also link them down below, and make sure you guys click that little like and subscribe button for me. Please, please do. I'm going to try to get to 500 subscribers by the end of this year. Fingers crossed. And thank you again for coming and checking me out and watching my videos. It means a lot to me. So just thank you guys so much. So I'll see you guys on Thursday next week. Bye.